Hey everyone, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Just doing a live stream here with Patrick. We're going to talk about the Davidic Christology in the Bible. If you want to visit the website, thehumanjesus.org, for more information. But today we will talk about the parallels really between Jesus, the Messiah, and his ancestor, King David. So I'll start here with a list just to show you where we're going with this. So you see there in the Old Testament, the Davidic king is shown as possessing superhuman qualities. For example, he's the natural procreated son of God, the famous Psalm 2, verse 7. You can also see in the Septuagint, or the Greek translation of Psalm 110, which, if you know the LXX, it's actually jumps a chapter. So it's Psalm 109 in the Greek. And there in verse 3, you will read about how he was begotten, that is, procreated before the morning star. And sacrifices were offered to the Davidic king, according to 1 Samuel chapter 11. The throne of the king is the throne of God, 1 Chronicles 29. And in that same chapter, I believe, the king is worshipped alongside God, the God of Israel. The king is also portrayed as being holy. That is, it was a sacrilege to lay hands on the Davidic king, according to 1 Samuel 26. And he's also a savior figure, 1 Samuel chapter 9. And he's even said to know all things, 2 Samuel chapter 14. And of course, the famous Psalm 45, where the Davidic king there is called God. So with that in mind, I'll bring up my friend here, Patrick. Hey, Patrick.
Hello, Carlos.
Now, please help me say your last name.
How you doing?
Yeah, your last name?
Grandchampt.
Grandchampt.
Yes, the T is silent.
Okay, Grandchampt. You're a champ. A champion.
Yeah.
All right, so we might have some connection problems here, but let me see if we're good. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, so first tell me, Patrick, what got you interested in, you've been doing a lot of work on these Davidic parallels, King David and Jesus. So can you tell us why the interest?
Yeah, well, upon my studies of Jesus and David, okay, I noticed a lot of similarities and a lot of parallels, and how this covenant made with David was a perpetual covenant. It's called an apodictic covenant, meaning nothing no one ever did would snub the covenant. It's perpetual. So I mean, there was parameters in the covenant where Davidic kings would be judged based on their actions, but it would never go away. So it's similar to the Abrahamic covenant, to where it's a covenant of salt. It's perpetual. And so I started noticing similar patterns, not just with David. David's the focus here, but a lot of patterns with the gospel, the kingdom message, the Davidic lineage. I've started noticing similar motifs with throughout the Davidic kings, motifs of the sun, motifs of the star. Some of the motifs that I was noticing are similar to Yahweh motifs. Okay, so the Davidic covenant and Yahweh with his king is sort of ingrained together, and so it got me interested in trying to do a study. And there's much more that I need to learn, but I wanted to just give a basis of what I've found so far.
Yeah, I mean, you send me some of your notes, and they're copious amounts of notes. So let's look at the Davidic covenant first. So the covenant God makes with David. So this is one of your references, 2 Samuel chapter 7. So what can you tell us about this covenant that's being made here? And if you want to reference any verses in particular, we can read it off the screen if you want.
Okay, I wanted to start with the Davidic covenant because this is where the covenant is really made perpetually with David, and we get the gist of it in 2 Samuel. I wanted you to start at when he says, "You'll have a son, and I'll be a father to him. He'll be a father to me." Right there at 14, or you can go at 13, one of the two. But the reason I wanted to start here is because I wanted to start here, and then I wanted to go to Chronicles because I want to show you what the chronicler, and before you go, what the chronicler did with the Davidic covenant. Okay, and let's see here. You see at when he does wrong, I will discipline him with a rod of men and strokes of mankind. Okay, keep that in mind. What the chronicler does, if you go to 1 Chronicles 17, 11 through 14. Yes. What the chronicler does here is you see, and the chronicler's written, he's already given a list of a timeline of all the kings. Okay. The chronicler supposedly is supposed to be Ezra. We're going to let that go for now because I'm focused on this. So what the chronicler does, if you look at this Davidic covenant, when he is reiterating it, he leaves off the rods of men here. You see in verse 13, there's no rods of men, there's no punishment. So the
Right.
Davidic covenant has already is establishing a messianic motif. Okay, that one of these Davidic kings is not going to need the punishment or the rod of men because he's going to be obedient. That's the first thing I wanted to show. So this messianic Davidic motif, by the time of the chronicler, which is he's already chronicled all the kings and all that, they're now waiting on someone to come that is going to fulfill this.
Right. Let me ask you here a question about. So God is sparing the rod, if you will, here when it comes to the Chronicles. So how can we apply that to the famous Isaiah 53? If I look it up here,
Sure.
where there's this, I guess, sort of controversial passage. Where is it? I'm trying to. Where it says God will cause him to suffer or crush him. If you can comment on that, how do we harmonize that?
Right. So, okay. Well, in the Davidic covenant, can you hear me?
Yep. Yep.
Yes. Well, okay. I think I'm getting some choppiness, but if you understand what's going on here is that the Davidic covenant with the punishment and the rod is something for disobedience. Here in Isaiah 53, this is not for the subject's disobedience. This is for is from other people's disobedience. So he's not being judged for being disobedient in Isaiah 53. Okay, what he's doing is similar to the what is it? The Azazel goat, where all the sins are put up.
Okay, I think I lost Patrick. See if we can get him back. So yeah, so we're looking here at these parallels with David. So David there in 2 Samuel 7, the point Patrick was making was that in Chronicles, where it relates the story, a lot of the stories from the books of Samuel, he noticed the change there between 2 Samuel 7 and First Chronicles 17. So let's see the other references. Hey, you there?
Yeah, I got better connection now.
Good, good. So yeah, so it's a different context in Isaiah 53.
Right.
To the one hint. Yep. So go ahead.
Okay, so with that being established, now I want to. So we're going to go back to David. If you could bring up the passages where I gave you with the light, or you can go there too. You see right here too. This is the Davidic covenant, 2 Chronicles 6:16. Notice, there will never lack a man to sit on the throne of Israel. Now, therefore, you don't have to take it literal, like there always has to be a king, but there will always be sitting on the throne. But there will always be a lineal descent, a link to David, i.e., in the future. So I want to go to the passages where David is given a motif of light. Give me one second.
Yep. So now we're going to look at Old Testament passages where you have this warning of the light of Israel. And you see the 2 Samuel 23, one of the references Patrick has. And the God of Israel, the rock of Israel, is like the light of the morning. So go ahead there.
Okay, so basically, 2 Samuel, yeah, David is being, like, I guess David is speaking from the Spirit here. If you go to the context prior, but what he's saying is that God had told him basically, whoever rules, like his sons, who rules in the fear of God, is going to be like the light of the morning when the sun rises, a morning without clouds, fresh grass. So this motif is being started here, and all the authors after 2 Samuel are aware of this motif can be applied to Davidic sons. Okay, so that I wanted to go there. Then I wanted to go to where's it at? Quench the light.
We have 2 Samuel 21:17. Yep.
Okay, so in one of the battles, okay, David went out with them to fight, but the men are telling him, "You can't come out with us again, so you don't extinguish the lamp of Israel." Okay, so right there, David and his genealogy is already being taken on this motif of being the light. Okay, the light of Israel, the lamp. Okay, so I wanted to show that David's right there is called the Hebrew. That could be either light or lamp. Lamp's probably a better translation. So we'll go from there, and now we can focus on the other ones. Okay, you see? All right. Now this motif here, I'm not sure if this is Yahweh or the king right here, but I'm pretty sure it's possibly the king. Let me see here. Habakkuk 3:4. Can you
go? I can bring up the full chapter here.
Yeah.
There you go.
God comes from Timon and the Holy One. Okay, so it is about Yahweh and his Holy One, right? And so I guess the subject here is now the Holy One and his radiance, and is like the sunlight. So to me, when I read this, God is coming through his Christ. And this Christ figure right here, his radiance is like the sunlight. Why? Because it's the lamp of David. He's a righteous ruler. He's the righteous ruler. He's the righteous shepherd. Okay, so we can go to Kings now. Okay, now these are what is being said about David and his Davidic lineage by Yahweh. But to his son I will give one tribe, that my servant David always have. And this right here is about the split that's about to happen with Solomon. Since Solomon was not a righteous ruler, his kingdom's going to be split. But the southern kingdom, Judah, is going to be left that one tribe. the scepter. Okay, so you see the lamp motif right here. David will always have. David's dead, mind you, but he speaks as if David is alive. So
Right.
let's continue there. So we have the lamp motif right here, and here's another one. This is still about, I guess, Solomon's split. However, the Lord did not want to destroy Judah. Why? Because Judah has the Davidic lineage. It has the motif carried the light of Israel. Okay, so got a lamp through his sons always. Now, remember, good or bad, these guys carried the lamp. Okay, so good or bad, this promise was perpetuated throughout the ages. Let's continue. Okay, another one. Promised to give him a lamp and his sons forever. Okay, so these are all just solidifying the same context, is that Yahweh promised. Okay, now this is interesting. In Isaiah 61, a lot of the commentators, okay, are applying this passage to a messianic figure, and they're applying the light to him. Yes. Oh, you went to 61. But yeah, that's the context. That's the context.
I thought you also mentioned that's 60.
Yeah, because I'm glad you did that, because when you keep reading, you'll see the context of this.
Yeah, I mean, 61 is famous, right? The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. So this is, I think, Luke references a lot in chapter 4.
Right.
When Jesus comes out with the power of the Spirit after his temptation in the wilderness. Yep.
Right, exactly. So that's why I applied the messianic motif to this light. Your light has come. The Lord has risen upon you through his Christ. Let's continue.
Yep. So then we have Malachi 4.
Okay, now the reason I'm bringing up these passages, where I don't want to run into the realm of eisegesis, but I want to continue to show the motif of a righteous human that has a motif of the Son because of his righteous rulership. Okay, and we see here that the Son of righteousness, in my opinion, is being applied to this human Davidic king, and I like that right there too. That's why I brought that up. However, it could be questionable if, the Son is being compared to Yahweh or his Messiah. But let's keep going.
Hey, can you, if I may stop you there a bit, can you talk about this metaphor of the Son? So the Messiah, the future Messianic King, the promised one, there are a lot of interesting analogies or metaphors with the sun, how it's rising and shining upon you. So it's a very distinctive Davidic motif in ancient Israel. Have you done any more work on that to tell us more about this Son of Righteousness?
Well, if you've studied Hezekiah's seal, Hezekiah has a motif on his seal of the sun, and so you're going to get sun motif. You're going to get the star that shoots out of Jacob. Okay, and so you'll get the day star passages dawning in your hearts. You get the son of the morning. All these motifs being applied to the messianic king. From, in my opinion, these passages concerning David and his lineage and his righteous rulership, or the person's righteous rulership, the lamp. And as you see throughout the ages, the lamp feels like it's getting dim, but when Jesus comes, it is illuminating mankind. It is the lamp has finally come. The light has come into the world. That messianic prophecy is now manifested in the man Jesus. That's okay. So when we get a lot of you're not going to see a lot, but you'll get, like, even Yahweh's compared to, the sun and his righteousness and plants growing, this kind of motif, right? You'll see it in Genesis as well. But you're going to get more star terminology because you have that.
Right. So the point here is that the Israelites the Jews, whatever you want to call them, by the way, Hebrews. So they have this concept that one day the sun will rise on their nation, that one day they're in perpetual almost slavery, perpetual suffering and awfulness, and it's night, it's dark all the time, right? But one day the sun will shine, specific to the Davidic Christology, the sun will shine over this one individual, and God will use that individual as the radiance, let's say, as the sun, S-O-N, of God, and the sun, S-U-N, which brings this Davidic kingdom, right?
The expansion.
Yeah, the freedom from slavery as well. Is that correct?
Yes. This which is tied into the gospel as well, because Israel finally is a light to the nations through this messianic Davidic king and his apostles.
Right, so, and Jesus calls us the light of the nation. I think in the book of Acts, he actually applies a Messiah text to Christians and says, you guys are the light, right?
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that, because what's going on here is, since Jesus has no physical descendants as children, he has, I'll use this term lightly, he has spiritual descendants. He has begotten you through the gospel, as Paul would say. So these messianic overtones Jesus is sharing with his believers. Sit on my throne, like he sat on his father's throne. Solomon sat on his father's throne. All these messianic overtones are now, through Jesus, applied to the believers. They share in that.
Right. So now let's come to this one of the great Psalms, Psalm 72. So you have Psalm 72, Psalm 79, I believe, and Psalm 89. To me, they're wonderful Davidic passages. So tell us about this Psalm 72
here. Okay, and this is exactly what I am. This is a hopeful. Okay, it's hopeful. And this is exactly what I'm talking about here, is where, if you were limited to the Old Testament only, you would be reading it as, this future messianic king, he's going to have lineage, and they're going to be righteous, and all his kids are going to be righteous. And it's going to be like the metaphorical sun is shining on the nation and other nations through them. But as we see in the New Testament, he does have he's the new progenitor. He's the last Adam. And through that is how he is, his descendants are as long as the sun shines, because the metaphorical sun here, Jesus, per Yahweh, is now glorified and exalted. So it spreads out through that way.
Right, and then we have Luke there.
Correct. So the motif is already being established throughout into the New Testament through Luke as well.
Right. So the sun will shine on those who sit in darkness, the shadow of death, to guide our feet into the way of peace.
Right.
And then we have, the same one, Philippians 2. You want to?
Right. Okay. So now the Apostle Paul, through revelation of Jesus, is now applying these Davidic messianic motifs to the believers of Messiah, like grafting them in so intermittent with them, identifying with him, i.e. possibly through baptism, but identifying with him as we're now sharers and inheritors of this promise to David through the Messiah.
This reminds me of the Qumran stuff. So Qumran, I forgot the scroll of the war of
the sons of light and the sons of darkness.
Right. Do you have any more insight into the Qumran issue and maybe the parallels there? Have you done any work on that?
There's a lot of different theories about what the way they were interpreting that as. Maybe they were talking about the sons of light are the actual true priests that are supposed to be in the priesthood. So, because they had a big thing going on with the Maccabean era and how the Levitical sons of Aaron priesthood was usurped by younger. So, I mean, maybe they were writing it as if like they were the true sons of light. But if you look deeper into it, the true sons of light are the believers in Jesus, because he passes. It's not about the Aaronic priesthood. It's about passing the Davidic light to others.
Right.
So
And
there is a motif there.
yep, just to let people know, the war of the sons of light against the sons of darkness. Some call it the War Scroll. So this is a BC document. The first Qumran, I think, discovered in 47. It's just an interesting background to this whole Jewish mentality, isn't it? That it's a constant state of war, and
Right.
we have light here, we have darkness. It's almost like the Star Wars thing, right? The light and the dark, and they shall meet. So I think that's a good background there. Okay, and then we have Revelation there.
Yes, and I'm interpreting this, to be okay. It's symbolic because the king is Jesus, and there's no other lamp needed. There's no other Davidic king ever going to be needed, because he fulfills that role.
Okay, and then we have Revelation 22 there. If you want to.
Right, and also you see the motif of the star motif, which also could be found in, I believe, Numbers 24:17, where there's a star that shoots out of Jacob, and this star motif gets enhanced more and more per Davidic covenant, and so you can apply this to Jesus, because he is that light, he is that messianic king, he is the shining star, and that's exactly what's going on.
Is this in any way connected to the Star of David? You know, if you see the flag of Israel, it has the famous star.
Right.
Is it connected to the kingdom?
Very possible that they have made it some kind of way with their Dalits and their Hebrew alphabet. But the Star of David, I think, is very connected in the state of Israel, or whatever you want to call it, with the Numbers 24:17 passage. Yeah, and to mention, that's why I believe they thought Simon Bar Kokhba was their Messiah. If you look up Bar Kokhba, his name translates to son of the star.
Right. Sorry.
It's the shield of David, yeah.
Yeah, the shield of David. Let's see. So then you have Numbers 24.
And this is where the beginning of the star motif, in my opinion, is starting to appear. And you see him, but not now. Look at him, but not near. A star shall appear from Jacob. Scepter shall rise from Israel. Smash Moab, overcome the sons of Sheth. So there is already a messianic overtone that is applied to the Davidic sons starting.
Well, that's a good one. Numbers 24. Let me stop here and bring up Psalm 2. Because that sounds a lot like this, doesn't it?
Yep.
You want to talk a little bit about this psalm?
Okay, so David has been anointed by the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and basically the surrounding nations are in an uproar, but the psalm to me is basically saying that, if you don't submit to God and his Christ, then you're going to have judgment. Yes.
Right. So you have verse 9 there. You shall break them with a rod of iron. You shall shatter them. So that's a good parallel to that Numbers 24 you brought up. I'll just bring it back up.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's almost verbatim, I think. A scepter shall rise, shall smash the forehead of Moab, and overcome all the sons of Sheth. So these are the bad guys that will one day be smashed to pieces, really. And then we have Leviticus 24. So what we're doing here, folks, once again, is we're looking at the light or the lamp of David passages that Patrick has connected here.
Right. So right here, the Levites are commanded to keep a light continually burning. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is because through the Davidic covenant, Yahweh is the one that's keeping the lamp continually burning through his covenantal promise. That's why I
Right.
want to bring that up.
Right. Okay. So, anything else you want to say about the lamp metaphor? And
I think we covered that pretty good, I would say. If you want to move on to
yep.
the
Let
horn
me.
of David, or do you want to go somewhere else?
Yeah. First of all, tell us what is the horn.
A horn usually can represent lots of things. It can represent a king. It can represent a kingdom. It can represent power. When Solomon, I believe it was an altar was made, it had four horns on it. And if someone that ran to the horn and grabbed it, they were granted refuge there because you couldn't kill them while they're holding on to the horn because it would defile, the blood would defile. So it took on this metaphor of, you know, it's the rock, it's the horn. It also is supposedly in Jewish literature, the horn that they blow the shofar, the jubilee. I believe it translates the same as a ram's horn as you have with Abraham and the binding of Isaac, and so Isaac gets replaced with a ram, right? So it takes on a lot of overtones there. Okay. Also, Yahweh is also referenced as the horn. Okay, and there's a lot that could be said there
Right.
with
So
that
let's
horn.
go through some of these texts you provided. Psalm 18.
Right now, you see right there. I believe it's actually talking about Yahweh, right?
Right.
Okay, and I wanted to establish that first because I am studying something called ultimate and proximate causation, and that means that in ultimate and proximate causation, Yahweh is the ultimate savior that sends saviors. So he's the ultimate cause, and the proximate cause would be someone like Moses. Okay, so I wanted
Right.
to start with Yahweh first.
Okay. And then Psalm 132.
And here we have, I will make the horn of David spring forth there. I've prepared a lamp for my anointed. There you have both motifs joined, the lamp and the horn. Okay. And so we've already getting these horn of David, which can remember, it could represent a lot of things. It could represent a trumpet. It could represent lots of things. But I'm wanting to put this picture together of these horns.
Right. So would this horn metaphor be connected to the trumpets in the Old Testament, and especially the famous seventh trumpet, the one that will inaugurate the second coming?
Right. So the way that some of these trumpets and horns can be connected, we would have to go into the Hebrew word of horn there. But before we even we don't have to do that. But yes, I would say that this horn is specifically is the Jubilee horn, which pronounces liberty. And so Jesus, being the true Jubilee, would pronounce liberty from death and Satan. That's how I would
Got it.
connect it.
And then Psalm 148 there.
Right. So Yahweh has lifted a horn for his people, praise for all his godly ones, for the sons of Israel. That horn that he's raising, in my opinion, this has already taken up messianic overtones. Okay, it's a Davidic king. That's
all right. And then we have Psalm 75.
okay. Now you see how it's multiple horns here now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because this messianic overtone of the Messiah and they probably believed he would have literal sons or through his lineage. But we find out in the New Testament it's believers.
Right. And then First Samuel 2.
Okay, right here we see that Yahweh's king is the horn of Yahweh's anointed. So not only is Yahweh being attributed this horn motif, his anointed Messiah, and we know the anointed is the motif for Christ or Mashiach or Messiah. So his horn, Yahweh's horn, his trumpet call, his power, his all this is going to be exalted.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite amazed at the delegation here. it's like a recurring theme, isn't it? All this is being delegated to someone. So the Lord God, Yahweh, Jehovah, however you want to say it, is always delegating ultimate power, really, over all the nations of the world. And here, there's a great text. He will give strength to his king, and will exalt the horn of his anointed. So this confusion with Jesus, the Messiah, the anointed one, we believe, of these prophecies, with God himself, I mean, it takes away from all these great prophecies.
Right. Well, another thing to consider is that the Israelites were scared when they heard the thunderings of Yahweh, and they were like, "Please don't speak to us no more. Send us a prophet, or send us someone to speak with us." So the motif is changing now to where he has sent somebody. This guy's righteous, and we should want to speak with Yahweh. Now we shouldn't be afraid. We should approach the mountain.
Right. Sounds like a mediator.
Right. Bingo.
All right. Then we get to this great Luke 1.
Okay, Luke is applying this now. He has raised up a horn of salvation for us in the house of his servant. He's applying this to Jesus. This horn that the God, the Father, has raised up is this Jesus.
Right. So he becomes now associated with the horn. He's obviously the light. Oh, by the way, I neglected to add to the light lamp of David metaphor. If we can go back to that, sorry folks, I totally forgot. John 1. Now, if you can tell us, because John 1 is big on the light,
right?
As you see there. So we go from the Word of God. That should say through it. By the way, a word is not a him.
Right.
And then it says that the life was the light of, and this light. So can we add that to your nice list there?
Okay, I've been trying to add the lamp of David here, and I've had to be very careful doing it because I'm catching some flack on it. But yes, so for me, this light, even though we know Yahweh or Jehovah, whatever you want to call him, is the ultimate. He's already promised a light to come that is going to be righteous, that is going to heal the nations. So I literally I've been applying this light motif, this light metaphor that I believe John's personifying, just like I believe he's personifying the Logos. And he culminates all this into the embodiment of Jesus through his deeds and his words. So yes, I believe that light there is the light of David that was in the world that nobody knew about because the sons of David, they turned kind of bad.
Right, and you have that verse 10. He was, or the light was in the world, and the world came into being through the light, and yet the world did not know him.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the first time, I think, and Anthony, you probably have heard him make a big point about the pronoun here changes from an it to a him, so that now John seems to be saying that this light is now a person.
Correct.
All right, so yeah, I forgot to mention
that this is what really, in your last talk with Andrew Perry, and when Andrew Buzzard said that, that's what got me digging into this.
Okay.
That's really a lot of what got me digging into it.
Yeah, actually, let me, if you don't mind, quickly bring up. So this is Anthony's translation and commentary, just to clarify what we're saying here. So Anthony, in his translation commentary, he was in the world came into existence through him. Actually, he has a he already there. But in the footnote, note that Jesus is on the scene. The light, which was it in verse 5, has been given personality, and it's described appropriately in the Greek as him in the ofton there. So we go, I think, from an oftu, which can be it or him, but now, properly speaking, ofton, which is a him. Is that what you mean?
Yes, because the light motif has now come into the world, i.e., conception of Jesus Christ. Now, I don't know if that's talking about birth or baptism, but still, that light motif is switching now because the light's come, Jesus has come. And remember, if they were thinking it was going to be descendants, well, there haven't been any Davidic king descendants since Jeconiah.
Right.
So Israel was in the dark.
Right. Okay, let's go back to, we were in the horn. Is that right?
Yeah.
Where were we?
We just got finished with Luke 1:6. Can you go to 1 Samuel 2:10, or did you already go there?
There you go.
You already went there. Yeah.
Okay, we did that, and
I think we went through most of the horn passages already. I was trying to connect it from the old to the new.
Right. Okay, now let's go to the lily.
Okay, this one's very
one of your last ones.
Well, I have the lily and I have the roe, but the lily's kind of nuanced because if you go to Psalm 60, verse 1, usually some translations are not going to give you the actual top part, the music director, and you see where is it? Hold on. Okay, I'm looking for this word here. Is it 60 verse 1? Yes, it's 60 verse 1. Should have a word Shoshanim in there. Let's see here. To the chief, the lily of the testimony. You see that in the ESV? The lily of the testimony. Some translations have it, some don't. But it's a Hebrew word as Shoshanim. According to Shushan Udas, it's right there.
How's that?
Yeah, I still not finding the word lily. It's in there, but it's actually the lily of the covenant. Hold on.
All right, I'm just looking through.
Try the interlinear.
Okay, interlinear. You go to Bible Hub. So we're in Isaiah 60. Sorry, hold on, let me.
Or Psalm 60 verse 1, and this one's not as defined, but Jesus does mention this.
Right. Okay, so we're in Bible Hub. I'm going to bring up the interlinear. Okay, how's that?
All right, risen is on the glory. Oh, okay. Try the Psalm 60.
Psalm 61.
Yeah. I need the top part of the psalm to show this. This is missed in a lot of English versions, and I found it by accident.
Yeah, sorry, I had the wrong book there.
All good. Okay, there he is. Lily right there at the top. See it?
Oh, right here.
Lily. Okay. Now, either David or the witness or something is being called the lily here. Okay, and you can see it's a psalm of David, the lily of the testimony. So he's called the lily. Right. Just want to set that there, right there. I'm getting yours. Okay, so let's go to the other psalm. Okay, this same thing here, same thing, right? According to the lilies. All right, if you go to the interlinear on this one, it's going to say, because I'm not sure, this one's really strange. I'm not sure if it's trying to apply the lily motif to the musicians or the Davidic, but in the Bible Hub, it kind of gets a little clearer.
All right, let me.
Sorry about all that.
There you go, lilies.
Yeah, okay. The lilies. Now, these are the only times you're going to find this set to the chief musicians of the sons of Korah, the lilies, concerning the king. So I don't know if it's applying the term lilies to the kings or the sons of Korah, but all the commentators are usually applying it to David. And it's funny because Psalms 45 is a Davidic.
Right.
Now here we have Solomon comparing himself as the lily of the valleys. Okay.
Mhm.
And so Solomon in Song of Solomon uses a lot of beloved language that scholars do apply to have messianic overtones, even though he's probably talking about whoever he loves in the immediate context. Now here's Jesus applying this Davidic, again, messianic overtone of lilies to his believers. Okay.
Mhm.
And that's why I brought up Luke 12:27 to show you that Jesus is aware of these messianic overtones. Jesus is very much aware of it.
Oh, yeah.
And he's aware that Solomon is calling himself the lily, otherwise he wouldn't be bringing it up.
Right. And this is a very interesting one because, in a way, we're greater than Solomon.
Correct.
So,
Through Jesus.
exactly, because of the Messiah, he makes us even greater than them. And it reminds me of what he says. He says the least, um, how's it go? The least person in this age will be the greater person in the age
Yeah,
to come.
because he was like, "Oh, John is the greatest of the prophets, but the least among you are greater than John."
Right. All right. Now you have a thing called the row.
Okay, now before we get into this row, I want you to go to Deuteronomy 12:5.
Okay.
I want to show you something. Now, this could be my own imagination, but I saw something here. And
Deuteronomy 12.
and with Psalm 110:1, you know down when you go to like 110:5, he lifts up his head from the brook. Remember that?
Right.
Okay.
I don't see Deuteronomy. It's not bringing it up. What's going on?
Oh, it's the U and the E.
It's me. I cannot spell. There you go.
All right, go to 5.
Okay. Instead,
Okay.
you shall seek out the place which the Lord your God chooses out of all your tribes and designates as his dwelling to put his name there.
Wait, is that 12:5? I don't know why it says that. How about Deuteronomy 12:22?
22. You
Yeah.
may eat it as you would the gazelle or the deer, the unclean and the clean eating it together.
Okay, glad. Okay, that right there. Okay, I was looking at the Hebrew word as the gazelle or the deer. I think one of those row. Notice how the clean and the unclean eat it together. Okay, I just wanted to show that. It may not have nothing to do with it, but let's go back now to Song of Solomon 2:9, 2:17. I wanted to show that. So this deer, this row is for the clean and the unclean, basically.
Right.
Okay. Now this lover language. Okay, it's kind of strange if Solomon either he's writing for the woman and saying her lover is like a gazelle or a young stag, because that's a male stag there, or he is talking about one of the Messiah. And a lot of scholars do apply this, not the immediate context to the Messiah, but a far context. So I wanted to show you here that everywhere he says lover, he's going to apply to this young stag. It's a male stag, by the way.
Right.
Let's go to
Okay. Is this the same? Oh, this is verse 17. Same one.
right. So here's more of the stag or gazelle. And I don't have a lot on this one, but I did want to show that I connect some of these passages with Psalm 110, where the seems like Yahweh or the Messiah lifts up his head from the brook like he's drinking water, because when you lift your head up, I forgot the overtone there, but usually if you're able to drink the water, then there's no enemies around you.
Right. So this is Psalm 110.
Yes.
So towards the end here, we have a change of position. So we had in verse 1, the David's Adoni, my Lord, at the right hand, but then in verse 5, it switches over. At the right hand of Adoni is the Lord God.
Right. And so look at verse 7 there.
Mm-hmm.
Is that he lifts up high his head and he's drinking because he's already conquered. There's no danger, right?
Right.
And I apply that with the roe or the deer or the brook. There's other passages, but I have to go into that deeper. The roe, I haven't developed that as much as the light.
Okay, now let's go to the firstborn.
Okay. Psalm 8:7. He shall cry to me, you are my Father, my God, the rock of my salvation. I thought it was there. Maybe it's in 2:7. Let me find it.
Yes, we have 2:7 here too. I will proclaim the decree of the Lord.
It should, yeah. Psalm 89:27 should have the word firstborn in it. Actually, I don't know why it's not having it there. Maybe you can try the interlinear or something.
Yep. So
okay.
That was. Let's try the Holman. Yep, there it is.
Right. So this word firstborn here, I want to emphasize it's not first in time. Okay. So this is
right.
a Davidic inauguration language. When there's a Davidic king, he becomes God's firstborn. He's the chief. Okay. He's the one that is ruling.
Yeah, this is known as a Hebrew parallelism, by the way. So firstborn is parallel to, you see there? This is what I think you're alluding to.
Yes.
So firstborn is qualified by greatest, not in time.
Right. And the word greatest there should be Elyon, and we know that is also a name for God.
Yeah, actually, let me bring up the Hebrew there. That's a good point too. So we have Psalm 89, a great psalm, by the way. If you can read all of it, that would be even better. So you're pointing to this Elyon, the Hebrew there?
Yes.
So that's the title for the God of Israel as well, is the point?
Yes, he's called El Elyon, God Most High.
And there it is, Genesis 14:18. God Elyon, the Most High. So it's translated Most High. So basically, this is an interesting case where translators sort of bias here, or because the firstborn is the Most High of the kings of the earth.
Right, it is qualified by kings of the earth.
Actually, let's see if anyone has Most High for David here. Yep, so some paraphrases. What's that? This is the good God's Word translation. Does render Most High. You see that?
Yep.
And that's an interesting bias there. NOG, what's that? Names of God Bible. So that has, he will be the Most High to the kings. So that's great. Psalm 2:7, and then we have Acts 13.
Right. So Acts 13, they apply this begotten language to Jesus. I've heard a lot of people say Jesus is twice begotten, and they're getting confused here. So what we have is Jesus is literally begotten from Mary, and then he's anointed at Jordan, and there is some textual discrepancies there on whether it should say I am well pleased or you are begotten, but I'm gonna leave that one alone for now. So we have an inauguration, and then Acts 13 now looks like the exaltation of Jesus is now exalted to the right hand of the Father, truly ruling not just over Israel, but all nations included. And it goes with the horn of being exalted horn, the light.
Right. Let me go back quickly to Anthony's translation here. Yeah, that Acts 13:33, there's some debate about that, but let's see what Anthony says here. The text describes the coming into existence, begetting, fathering in the case of Jesus by miracle. Acts 13:34, so the next verse describes, by contrast, verse 33. the further fact of his resurrection from the dead. The King James obscures this easy fact by adding the word again in verse 33, leading readers to think of the resurrection in that verse.
Correct.
Yeah, that's an interesting history there. So let's
notice after resurrection, he doesn't just say, I have all authority on earth. He now has all authority in heaven and earth.
Right. Now let's finish with the bone flesh.
Okay, what I was trying to show here is someone mentioned to me, his name is David, mentioned to me that this is body of Christ typology, even though they are actually his kinsmen, right? They're the bone of his flesh. Jesus now, and we're his brethren, he is the bone of our flesh. So he is the head of the body. And I was looking at this in the Matthew Henry commentary, even talks more of this, how we are now to come to him as being our head, as our bone and our flesh, our brother.
All right. Thanks, Patrick. So to wrap up here, one last question for you. So why do you think this Davidic figure is almost like supernatural? Well, it is a sort of super person, supernatural. Why do you think that is?
In my opinion, that God has invested all of his attributes and authority into this new progenitor, this Adam. And so he is going to fix the world and everything through this human Messiah who has now been exalted over the angelic forces. So that is my reasoning, is like this person is the image of God. He reflects God's morality. He reflects God's judgment, his mercy, his grace, and his power.
Right, and he will need it because, as Paul says in the letter to Ephesus, we are battling not flesh and blood, but really massive, invisible powers, spiritual powers. So, yeah, this individual will need all the help he can, I guess.
Right, and that's before we wrap up, that's another thing, is that I believe his main rejection, not just that, they didn't want to lose their power, is that he didn't come and take over Rome like expected and put Jerusalem as, leader of the nations. What happened was he came, in my opinion, to defeat death and Satan, and then inaugurate his kingdom. So that is a main reason. That's why I keep emphasizing. I'm glad you brought up John, because I do want to connect John's light motif to this Davidic motif.
Right. And for more on that, I have an article on the human Jesus, and I will post your list, if you don't mind, on our website here. I think it's a very good list. But this is an old article I did, the Davidic King as God, where I have all those references. In Psalm 89:19, David is called Gibor, mighty. So, all right, Patrick. Well, thanks a lot for taking the time. I know you're a busy man.
Thank you, Carlos. I hope it was edifying. There's just so much more I could have said. I hope I did a good job.
Oh, don't worry. We'll do a part 2 and 3 if necessary. I know there's a lot of other stuff you're working on, but thanks.
Right, and thank you for you and Anthony and all you do. I appreciate it. Goodbye.
We appreciate you, brother. Thank you. So, that was Patrick. You can find them on Facebook, by the way. Patrick Grandchampt. He's a big champion. So there, I'll put the link in the chat if you're watching live. But most of the references we started with, you can find here in this article. And I'll put in the video description, I should say, to this video, I will put Patrick's good list that he went through just now. So thanks everyone, if you're watching live, for joining us. So this has been the Davidic Christology with Patrick. I hope you found it edifying. And until we meet again, God bless.